The moment confusion took over the room, everything shifted. People watched as the one who once acted superior started cracking, scrambling to explain a version of your life they never understood. It was surreal to witness someone who spent so long pretending to have you figured out suddenly choke on their own certainty. Their voice shook, their confidence vanished, their explanations contradicted each other. It wasn't because your life was complicated. It was because their version of you had never been real. They crafted stories from jealousy, projected insecurities onto your silence, and built narratives from assumptions. Now that reality stood before them, their script collapsed. The mask they wore began peeling in front of everyone, and the room saw something raw, panic born from exposure. The irony sat heavy in the air. They tried decoding you to belittle you, only to expose their own confusion. The meltdown didn't happen because you were mysterious. It happened because they depended on misunderstanding you. The chaos you witnessed wasn't humiliation for its own sake. It was the consequence of someone trying to control a story they never owned. They'd spent months analyzing your calm, twisting your silence into insult, turning your distance into accusation. Every time you pulled back, they took it personally. Every time you healed privately, they interpreted it as threat. When the truth finally surfaced, their entire narrative unraveled. It was strange to watch someone who once felt so loud suddenly crumble under the simplicity of who you really were. The room didn't judge you. It judged their obsession. Their breakdown wasn't about you. It was about the collapse of their illusion. People forget that obsession is loud. It reveals itself through over-explaining, overreacting, oversharing. They did all three. The moment someone else asked a simple question about you, they spiraled into a monologue filled with contradictions. They spoke of things you never said, feelings you never expressed, intentions you never had. It was like watching someone drown in a pool of their own assumptions. You didn't need to defend yourself. Their unraveling became the defense. Their desperation exposed every motive they tried to hide. The more they talked, the more the truth came forward, not about you, but about them. It became clear they never paid attention to understand. They paid attention to control. And when control vanished, perspective followed. The room grew colder as the meltdown advanced. People exchanged glances, sensing that something deeper was unfolding. You remained quiet, not out of intimidation, but because awareness doesn't need volume. The one collapsing in front of everyone kept pushing narratives that no longer carried weight. Every attempt to decode your life highlighted how little they ever knew. Their frustration had nothing to do with clarity. It had everything to do with losing the comfort of feeling superior. They couldn't comprehend that someone could evolve without explaining themselves, that someone could heal without announcing it. Their identity depended on being the closest observer, and now that distance existed, they panicked. That's the psychology of insecurity. It crumbles when certainty disappears. People often try to read others to feel safer about themselves. That's what this was. A failed attempt at control disguised as curiosity. Their breakdown revealed how threatened they were by someone who doesn't need validation. In a world where many broadcast every move, choosing privacy becomes a form of rebellion. They never knew how to handle your quiet growth. It terrified them, because silence removes their access. When you stopped oversharing, they filled the gaps with imagination. When your energy shifted, they turned it into personal attack. Now, facing truth stripped of assumption, the storm erupted. Not because you were confusing, because they had mistaken interpretation for fact. Awareness has a way of exposing those who pretend to understand what they never took time to learn. The scene took another turn when people started asking the one unraveling why they cared so much. That question hit them harder than anything you could have said. Their face froze, their hands trembled, because the truth behind their obsession wasn't malicious intent. It was envy. They envied your composure, your ability to walk away from drama, your capacity to rebuild without broadcasting wounds. They envied the way you survived what was meant to break you. They envied your strength, then mistook it for arrogance. Now, in front of everyone, the truth exposed itself. Their breakdown wasn't embarrassment, it was confession. They had tried so hard to decode your life because they couldn't control their own. The most interesting part was how others responded. No pity, no alliance, just observation. People began piecing the truth together without your involvement. They saw who held peace and who carried chaos. They saw who stood steady and who trembled. It wasn't a battle of character. It was a contrast of emotional intelligence. What once seemed like mystery now looked like self-respect. What once seemed like attitude now looked like boundaries. Their meltdown highlighted every strength you had quietly cultivated. You didn't expose them, self-exposure did. Sometimes the loudest truth comes from someone else's inability to keep their story straight. The moment that sealed everything was when the one breaking down finally realized no one could save them from their own unraveling. They reached for sympathy, but the room stayed silent. They tried blaming misunderstandings, but the inconsistencies were too clear. The panic in their expression revealed everything. The fear of losing relevance in your life. The fear of being forgotten by someone they tried to dominate emotionally. Their identity had been tied to misunderstanding you. Without that, they felt empty. That emptiness spilled into their breakdown, turning their performance into a moment of raw exposure. You stood there with steady composure, not out of pride, but out of growth. There was nothing to defend, nothing to correct. The truth didn't need your voice. It had already revealed itself. The one breaking down was not your responsibility, not your burden, not your story to fix. Their collapse was a lesson for everyone watching obsession destroys itself when reality refuses to cooperate. Your life didn't need decoding. It needed distance, and distance is what saved you. The illusion began long before the conflict ever surfaced. Someone looked at your life and stitched together a version that made sense to their insecurities. Not your truth, not your journey, just their interpretation built from fragments. The mystery people spoke about was never rooted in your behavior, your silence, or your choices. It was rooted in the fantasy someone else created to protect their pride. In a toxic bond, assumptions become placeholders for honesty. Instead of asking questions, they built theories. Instead of seeking clarity, they filled gaps with fear. Every misunderstanding multiplied until it became a storyline they trusted more than reality. When that illusion finally clashed with the truth you were living, confusion broke them. The mystery wasn't your depth, it was their distortion. And watching that distortion crumble became a lesson in how dangerous imagination becomes when paired with insecurity. It was strange how confidently they narrated your life to others. They claimed to know your motives, your habits, your intentions. They spoke with certainty about choices they never saw, emotions they never asked about, wounds they never respected. Their version of you was based on projection, not perception. The illusion they built felt safer to them than the truth you carried. The truth required humility, patience, understanding. The illusion required none of that. It was easier to believe you were cold, distant, arrogant, confusing, anything that shifted responsibility away from their own behavior. When awareness finally entered the room, their illusion couldn't survive. Suddenly, the narrative where you were the villain made no sense. The one where they pretended to hold power became laughable. The meltdown that followed was an embarrassment. It was an identity breaking under the weight of its own lies. In a toxic relationship, illusion always replaces honesty. They feared losing control, so they created a version of you that justified their reactions. If you pulled away, they said you were ungrateful. If you spoke less, they said you were hiding something. If you healed quietly, they said you were being dramatic. The illusion allowed them to stay blind. Confronting the real you would have required accountability, something they weren't built for. The illusion protected them from confronting their own shortcomings. But illusions age poorly. When the truth finally stood tall, your growth, your peace, your changed energy, their fantasy couldn't adapt. And when a person's self-made story collapses, the collapse feels like losing control of reality itself. That moment revealed everything the illusion hid: their fear, their insecurity, their dependence on misunderstanding you. Every assumption they made was designed to protect their ego. They focused on the mystery, so they didn't have to face their own behavior. They misread your silence, because acknowledging your hurt meant admitting their fault. They misread your boundaries, because admitting you had them meant they had crossed lines. They misread your calm, because accepting your peace meant recognizing their chaos. The illusion acted as a shield from guilt. And as long as that shield existed, they treated you like a concept instead of a person. When the truth finally contradicted their fantasy, the shield cracked. They weren't prepared to face who you truly were, someone who grew despite the pain they caused. That mismatch is what triggered their collapse. Their illusion was too fragile to withstand your evolution. The moment people began seeing the real dynamic, the illusion dissolved faster than expected. They had spent so long trying to decode your motives that they convinced themselves they understood more than they did. But truth reveals itself through behavior, not storytelling. You remained composed, consistent, grounded. They remained frantic, defensive, unraveling. It became obvious to everyone watching that the mystery they described had never existed. The room didn't see an unpredictable person. They saw someone who walked away quietly. The room didn't see a complicated character. They saw someone healing. The meltdown exposed the illusion, because illusions always collapse under observation. The mystery never lived in your actions. It lived in their unwillingness to see you clearly. And once clarity entered, their performance could no longer continue. In toxic dynamics, illusion becomes a form of self-defense. Instead of admitting that they mishandled the relationship, they painted you as unknowable. Instead of admitting they caused damage, they labeled you unpredictable. Each lie protected them from themselves. When people cling to illusions, they cling to power. But real power can't survive a moment of truth. The illusion they built depended on your silence. The moment you detached emotionally, the foundation cracked. They tried to rebuild it in front of others, rewriting events, exaggerating flaws, inventing motives. But illusions crumble instantly when reality stands beside them. Their words betrayed their insecurity. Their panic revealed their guilt. The meltdown became the truth they tried to avoid. Because a person only breaks down that loudly when their story loses its last supporter, themselves. You didn't have to defend anything. Their unraveling did that for you. The illusion they built had so many layers that when it collapsed violently. Every assumption they made became a trap for their own dignity. Every lie they told became a weight they couldn't carry. In the end, the mystery dissolved, and what remained was painfully simple. Someone trying to justify losing control over a person they thought they owned emotionally. Observers saw it clearly. Their desperation wasn't about understanding your life. It was about reclaiming the narrative slipping from their hands. They weren't decoding you. They were trying to rescue a version of the story where they felt powerful. But the truth had already replaced illusion, and no breakdown could glue it back together. The illusion thrived when you were still attached. It thrived when you felt obligated to explain, to defend, to clarify. Once you withdrew your emotional participation, the illusion had no fuel left. That's when the meltdown happened. Your growth exposed their stories. Your distance exposed their dependency. Your silence exposed their noise. The illusion shattered not because you attacked it, but because you stopped feeding it. They weren't prepared for you to outgrow their version of you. They weren't prepared for your evolution to silence their narrative. When the illusion lost its target, it lost its meaning. Their entire persona, built on being the one who understood you, collapsed in front of everyone. And the collapse revealed a simple truth. The illusion was always about them, not you. The moment the illusion dissolved, the real story surfaced. People saw your strength without needing explanation. They saw your boundaries without needing justification. They saw your calm without needing interpretation. Meanwhile, the illusion maker stood exposed, stripped of the role they'd assigned themselves. Their breakdown became an unmasking. For the first time, everyone saw the insecurity behind their arrogance, the obsession behind their confidence, the projection behind their observations. You weren't the mystery. Your growth simply outpaced their narrative. The real mystery was how long they managed to believe a story that never matched reality. And now that reality stood in front of them, their collapse became inevitable. You didn't need to say anything. The truth had already spoken.